Welcome everybody, and today is our next session about making fields mandatory. Here with you again, your guides, Ivan, Mike, and Ula. Hey guys, say hi.
Hi.
Hello.
And today we are going to discuss the next possible option to make your stuff mandatory, client scripts. So Ula, what are we going to do today?
Well, as promised, it's a five-parter, so we're diving into the second option today, which is client scripts. And it's working in a similar way as we discussed last time, UI policies. It's working on the browser side, and it's more of a code style approach in contrary to UI policies, which are code-free or low code.
All right, great. So I
let's go
presume we can jump straight into our application.
Yeah.
So playground all. Let's open just one of the records and maybe make a new one. Session 02 scripts. All right. So I presume we can start by creating a simple client script in our studio, right?
Mm-hmm. Let's go there.
And again, we have catalog client scripts and normal client scripts. Do you want to add something about it?
Well, it's for any viewer that should checked our last video. It's the application either on the table level or a specific use case for catalog items. So I'm thinking that's a topic for another day, discussing the use cases for catalog client scripts. But let's move on.
Yeah, it's one big topic inside of the bigger topic of client scripts. So let's start with the baseline of the client scripts.
Yeah.
All right, here we are on the form of the client script.
Yeah.
Takes a little bit of time to get loaded. So let's start.
Just want to mention, because for me it's an important topic, and we saw it during the form load on the right side. There was field, and after the form has loaded, it disappeared. If you uncheck the global option on the right side, then this view field should appear. And again, here you are able to define or to narrow down your client script to a certain view if you want. In later sessions, maybe we can talk about views, because this is one of my favorite topics. You can do a lot with views. But for today, I think we should leave it on global.
Yeah, actually, the whole view topic is often very, I would say, neglected by the many beginning ServiceNow specialists. And it shouldn't be, because views, and especially the out-of-the-box views, right? If at some point you decide to, I don't know, clean it up a little bit, the view option on the platform by removing the out-of-the-box views, just don't. There's enormous number of dependencies on them, so very, very, very important topic. And so let's continue. I will set it up back for the moment for our test purposes.
Yeah.
Let's select our table.
And here's the first thing you can notice. This is a scoped application.
Yeah.
So the UI policy could only act on the table that belongs to this application. But here, when doing a client script, you can actually do a client script that acts on another table which belongs to another application or global. Here you have all tables to select from.
Let me check the table. I need to give it a
playground, right?
I need to give it a better name. Currently, it's an entry.
Playground.
But as we are now calling ourselves as ServiceNow Expeditions, we need to make some adjustments. But no worries for that. All right, the table is there. Now let's call it -02. Script. Okay, I'm limited a little bit. Let's save it. So what do we have on this form except for the table name and the global option to select the view?
Mike, do you want to fill in what the other options are?
Yes, maybe a kind of formal thing, but for large implementations, pretty important. This is the description field. Unfortunately, ServiceNow does not provide this description field for all the artifact types. Now, for example, in a business rule, a really important artifact in ServiceNow, the description field is available, but not visible in an out-of-the-box form. But here it's enabled, and you always should describe your artifact. In this, it's a client script. What is this client script doing? And maybe you also have a kind of story number or a requirement number, and you can reference it here. So in my large implementations, I always expect in these description fields a story number so that I am able to look up the requirement behind the change or the initial implementation.
That's good advice.
Yeah, that's amazing advice because, again, right, when you are doing this thing, you keep everything in mind, but as soon as a couple of weeks passed by, you first of all does not remember what it is, who did write this thing, and what it refers to. And the usage of the stories is a great thing, especially, of course, if you're using agile development or maybe an external system like Jira to track your backlog. I presume, again, right, a couple of words could be said about UI type, the desktop, mobile and service portal, which also, of course, includes Employee Center. But you should be aware that, again, desktop does not include workspace experience, right? Workspace is currently included only when you select all.
Yeah.
So let's select all for that.
Just one hint, be careful with this option. As with workspaces, in workspaces, you only can leverage a pretty reduced number of APIs. Also, and this is sometimes disappointing. So therefore, I recommend not to implement or to try to implement a script which is working in all experiences. It will fail. So if you only want to add for the core UI, then concentrate on the core UI and find an alternative which is specialized implemented especially for a workspace.
Yeah, that's also good advice.
All right.
And as you can see, the script field is currently empty. And it gets auto-populated when you select the type of client script you want to apply here.
So we have, at this moment, we have 4 different kinds. It's onSell, edit, onChange, onLoad, and onSubmit. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Sure. onSell edit is where you would work with a list view of records. onSubmit is, well, when your form is getting submitted. onLoad is when your form is loading, and onChange is looking at when changes happens to your form.
So which one are we going to use today?
For today's example, let's go for an onChange.
Yes, and you can see as soon as we have selected onChange, we got 2 things happened on our form. The boilerplate for the onChange client script was added, and we got one more field, which is called field name, to select the field that should be triggering this onChange client script. So what do you want to trigger today?
So let's have a look at field change, the ID field that I added just recently.
Corporate ID.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, before we go further, do you want to say a couple of words about the messages field, which is also important?
Sure. It's used in regards to translations. Do you want to elaborate, Mike? I haven't been using that very much.
So if you are doing, or if you are using a client script, you have a kind of interaction with the user. No, you prevent something, you do something, and then you want to give feedback to the user. Any kind of message which should be displayed on the screen. There are different technologies for doing this. So, and this message maybe also should be translated depending on the language the user has selected. So, in multi-language implementations are typical nowadays. So, and there's a API request which is getting the translated message from the server side, because here we are on the client side, and whenever you do this, you would invoke a server-side request from your browser, and this is not efficient. So, and you can write down all the messages you want to display later, and whenever this client script is loaded, all the messages are loaded from the server side in one batch with one request. So this is a kind of performance optimization, and not to invoke that many. At the end, we talk about light agent requests, server-side requests from your browser side. And with this, the downside here is whenever you change the message, you have to remember that you also have to change the messages here in this field. This is not that comfortable in my mind.
But anyway, a good option to at least make sure that your scripts are following any languages and interfaces. Of course, for that to work, you also need to make sure that these lines are translated in your in the instance itself. For that, you are using the messages table. Under the system localization application. But sorry for this short detour, so we can now continue.
Hey, it's an expedition, right?
It's a step away to a dangerous environment where something dangerous might lurk for you. One of the other things that I would like to highlight before we start, right, on the boilerplate here on the script side, we have an if statement which is checking if and actually when we need to skip the execution of the script, right? And one is the parameter is loading, and the next one is the check for a new value. So if there was new value is empty, doesn't make sense to initiate anything. And in regards to the is loading script, so sometimes we need to display information not only on change, but also make sure that during the form load, right, we also ensure that the script is executed for some reason, right? So that we can kind of remove this is load, and then it will become also like onLoad script.
Yeah, it's a way to avoid doing duplicate client scripts, one for onLoad and one for onChange.
Yeah, for some reason, during one of our recent sessions, this was kind of a revelation for me, because I was so fixed on doing things in a different way. Yeah, sometimes you just need to admit how stupid your ways of working are. But yeah, here we are. So
yeah. So this time, and contrary to last time where we used UI policies, where everything was done in a no-code fashion, we have to do everything here in code to do the conditions on when this should be applied, and the execution, what should happen, everything you need to write in code. So let's do a simple mandatory enablement for starters.
Yeah, so on the client script, we have access to the GForm object, which has some methods that allowing us to do this. And one of these methods, the methods that are responsible for making fields mandatory always like start from set. It's either mandatory, read only, or set visible. So let's do it mandatory. Which field are we going to do to make mandatory?
Let's go for end date today.
Question: why do we know the field is named end date?
Sorry?
Why do we know? Because we made the application.
Yes, because we made the application.
Can we maybe open already a record and show the users where they can get this name from?
Yeah, of course.
Let's go.
And by the way, it's not an end date, it's a
Oh,
due
it's
date.
not an end date.
If you right click on it, you can
Darn.
see on that you can see the option, let's say, to show a due date, and it will present you the information about the dictionary entry, which will include the field name, type, length, and active attributes. If you are using now Ascend Utils application, simple double click on the form will also display the technical names. This is how you can find out which name is used. So it was better to do it before. But yeah, this happens. So we are making fields.
So basically nothing would happen because we would reference a field that doesn't exist.
Exactly. Now we can save the field.
And to show, before you reload the field, to show that this is only acted on the client side, you could see that even though you saved, the due date is now not set as mandatory until you actually reload the form, which is to show that this is only acted on from the browser side.
Yeah. So now, I presume as soon as we start changing the corporate ID field.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, as soon as we changed it, and it's not empty, right?
And I think you left the form field, right? It's not only writing. You have to go to another field, otherwise it's not fired, this client script. Now, if you're just entering, maybe we can start from the beginning. Just reload the form. So we have the initial state.
Oh yeah.
So if just entering a value without leaving the field will not change.
Make it mandatory.
Yes, but you have to click anywhere else, and this is the signal or the trigger to fire the client script and do all the things, the magic.
I presume one of the browser events is used, like change focus or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, here we are. Our due date is populated. What happens if I remove it? It stays populated, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
again,
it stays mandatory, because the logic for that is not specifically included in our client script, right? And the new value is preventing this onChange script to execute if the new value is empty. So it basically remains the same, right?
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the use cases on where you must use or preferably use a client script over UI policy, as we can see in how you do condition-wise. When working with UI policies, you do low-code conditions. You set like things sort of like active is true if a date is passed, or other things that you can do with the form, where when client scripts regards to this, you can evaluate contents of a string to see if it should evaluate to true, if it should set a field as mandatory. So I'm thinking we should look on the contents of the string, see if we want to set the field as mandatory this time. A condition, if. Oh, we need to retrieve the value first.
You want to retrieve and store it in a variable.
Yeah. Usually, that's my coding style. You don't have to. You can use new value directly.
Mike, what do you think about this? Do you also prefer to cache the values in the variables first?
Yes. For example, due to debugging reasons, if you have captured the value in an individual variable, it's easier to debug and to print and whatever. So therefore, and it's also more readable because with the name of the variable, you have an indicator for the purpose, for what you are expecting as a developer from the field.
Okay, very good. So in this case, I'll be getting a corporate ID value using a method of the gform again, and this will be get value. And we will be taking just the name of the field, double check, corporate ID. All right, now we have a value. It's time to build an if statement. What do we check against?
Let's say if just check if the string contains hello for some silly example.
So we can use an index of.
Mm-hmm.
If it contains hello, then we make the field mandatory.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Right again, so let's try. I'm going to reload the form using the context menu by right-clicking on the top right bar. And let's try to do some random thing first. Nothing happens. And now we do hello. And we have our field mandatory.
Yeah, great.
Just one hint, because I saw it when you were coding. Can you go back, please, to the script, and then instead of index of, can you please remove in the if condition everything after the dot hex? I don't know how familiar the users or the audience here is. Whenever you are typing and entering the dot, you get this toolbar. Yeah, the suggestions. Thank you. Yes. With what is available, intelligence. Yes. Yeah. With available functions.
You can also by the way, trigger it. Sorry. You can also, by the way, trigger it by pressing Control space.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I saw this include. Now you have decided for the index of, and there's this option includes. Why I'm telling this? Because the client scripts are working on the browser side. On the browser side, you can use whatever the browser is providing to you in regards of APIs. And includes is a more modern form of working with strings. This was not available in ServiceNow for a long time. They are built on server side on the ES5 engine, and includes is a more modern API method, which is not related to ServiceNow. It's available on the browser side, so you can use the modern APIs here completely.
Yeah,
this is often confusing for developers that they have to switch in their brain between what is ServiceNow providing on the server side and what is the browser providing on the client side.
Yeah, this is one of those tricky things, especially if you are working with ServiceNow for a very long time. You are very fixed on the 𝐂𝐀5 notation, right? And then could happen that, yeah, you're just not following. I'm trying. Probably at some point we will also decide for us that we are never going to refer to any legacy methods which are replaced by some modern alternatives. But Mike's, yeah, thank you. So thank you for that. So we can try, right? I just checked the if you hover your mouse over, you see what this method expects you, right, to provide. First one is a search string. So in this case, it will be hello. And then there is an optional parameter position, so we are not going to use, and it will return us a Boolean that's true or false. So we can check it like this. If corporate value includes hello, then it evaluates to true, then we make the field mandatory. Let us check if that works. So first of all, random string, and then hello. And it works perfectly.
And also, if you change it again now to some other random string, it will remain mandatory.
Yes.
Because we haven't added any logic to decide when it should not be mandatory, because it's only triggered when this happens.
Yeah, so here we have this one-liner, let's say. Normally we can add an else statement, right?
That's one way.
Refresh. Load. Random string doesn't work. Hello works. And then if we change it again, it makes the due date not mandatory again. All right. The next option. So
when we spoke last time, you spoke of defensive programming. Do you want to
that's
show that again?
That's
Ivan?
what I like to do. First of all, by default, we can make this field mandatory. But if it does not include hello, we'll make it false. In this case, we don't need else statement. It's kind of one of those modern coding practices that I like to stick to. Reduces the complexity of the decisions described in your code. And if we come back here, you see that it works exactly the same.
Yep, very good.
All right, guys, what next?
Let's dive into another use case where you need to work with a script. For example, a regular expression, which is commonly used when working with strings. So a regular expression, that's another way of enabling quality on your data. Besides using mandatory fields, it's a thing that evaluates the pattern of the data entered. So if you're looking for example, this time a corporate ID, maybe it should be a composition of, I don't know, 3 letters and 3 numbers. So you wouldn't want to force the user to enter exactly that type of combination. Then you use a regular expression.
Are you one of those guys who can combine regex expression in your mind?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Amazing.
I'm fairly good at it. Yeah.
All right, then I presume we can just immediately put another if statement, and as far as I remember, regexp.
Let's define a variable as a our regular expression.
Oh yes, exactly. Var regex. So what will it be?
You in this case you start and end with a slash.
Mm-hmm. Because it represents the beginning and the end of the expression, right?
Yeah, but let's keep it simple.
Not the line. And you are not using the quotes or any kind of other things. Yeah, okay.
There are various ways to do this, but let's go with this way.
By the way, there's a pretty good website I'm often using. It is called regex101.com.
Yeah.
And there you can test first your regex expressions, and if you're sure it's working like intended, you can copy this and then insert in your code. And there's also a large library of regex expressions, for example, evaluating an email or whatever. You can just get the ready-to-use expression from there.
Good. So we'll put it here for people to check it. All right. So how does this one look?
I'm thinking we should have matching for 3 letters, A to Z, and then add 3 digits.
We have prepared it in the background. Here how it looks like. So Ulla, can you explain what each of these signs mean?
Yeah. The first brackets are A to Z, that we're expecting any character from A to Z. And then there's within the curly braces, number 3. So we're expecting exactly 3 characters. And then there's a second part where it says /D, which is short for digit. You can also say a 0 through 9, which would be the same thing. And then the 3 is 3 digits.
Is this capitals or also the...
Yes,
okay.
allowing only capital letters. Otherwise, you would have to specify A to Z in lower capitals.
Hey, Mike, what else can we do to make sure that there are, let's say, no other characters interfering with our regex checks?
Yeah, for example, if you pasting the corporate ID from any other tool like Excel, you often have some invisible characters in your clipboard, tabulars, line breaks, and so on. And to make sure that these are not conflicting with this regular expression, I often use when for getting a value, a final trim. In line 7, you're getting the value from the field. And if you add another dot trim method at the end.
And by the way, one important thing, right? Get value will always return you a string, and trim is a string method. So we are pressing dot,
Trim.
then we see again IntelliSense coming up, and we can type trim and brackets.
Yeah, as it said, it will remove the leading and the trailing spaces, or let's say white
spaces. Yeah,
it's not only the space when you hit the space key, but also any white spaces, line breaks, tabulars, whatever, which it's not visible on the screen.
All right. So now we are ready to test our string against the regex expression. So we can start doing it by typing an if statement, and if I remember, corporate ID value test. No, that was something else.
Match.
Oh, yes, match regex. So, and this will again return us. What will it return us?
A true false.
All right, and then it should work exactly the same way as we had before. Let us add it here. And let's save it. Let's reload the form and let's try to put some string. Nothing works. Nothing works. So the idea was we need exactly 3 records, capital letters in front, and then 3 digits, right? And it works perfectly.
Yeah.
Amazing use case. I really love regex when you need to make sure that users provide you with the information that you want.
Yeah, regex is good use. Another use case, which we could mention at least, is the use of glide Ajax. If you look at the form, we have, for instance, we have the requester field, which is a reference to the sys user. And sometimes you might need to interact with the form based on something that's not available on the form. For example, if you click on the requester has a specific department or a specific company or something else, then you might need to have something going mandatory or other logic happening on the form. So when using .walk fields, that's a use case for glide Ajax.
Yeah, because we are on the client side, and we are not provided with anything else except of the sysid and the display value of the requester. We need to send a request to get all the related data.
It's a topic for another session.
Yeah, because
to
it's a
dive
huge
into
one.
glide Ajax.
It's a huge one.
So, any other things, Mike, you want to add to this?
Yeah, there is a checkbox at the bottom of the form, isolate script. Basically, this is also a larger topic. Why is it there? Let's say in the beginning of ServiceNow, developers often try to manipulate the so-called DOM tree of the page. And later, ServiceNow introduced this field, isolate script, to prevent DOM manipulation, because it often broke the complete script after an upgrade due to the changed API of ServiceNow. So therefore, leave it as it is and don't try to manipulate HTML or DOM tree, it's called. It's also a larger topic, because in the future, we are going more and more into the direction of workspaces and so on, and these kind of experiences have a complete different approach of working on the client side, and they completely disallow DOM manipulation. It's not possible anymore. So therefore, just ignore this checkbox.
I remember a lot of situations when, as I'm working since, let's say, Calgary with ServiceNow, I remember a lot of situations when I open my incident form and it's completely blank. I have no idea. And I have no idea what it is, because it doesn't make any sense. But after a short investigation, you find out that someone put some faulty script or faulty check, and then the whole DOM was corrupted, and then the only thing is to disable quickly this script and then try to avoid it as much as possible. It's a very good point. Thank you, Mike, for that. So guys, that was it for today and for the topic of client scripts in order to make a fields mandatory. I hope we had prepared for you a lot of useful and deeper insights thanks to Mike and Ulla, and we will see you in the next session.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.